Wahu si Rita Pangilinan Nauta. I serve as the managing director of Guampedia.com. Sizos ma'asi to all of you for joining us. We partnered with the University of Guam College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences with the support of Baltazar Aguon, Jay Castro, and James Viernes at the University of Hawaii, Manoa, to produce this virtual community outreach series in response to the global pandemic and the sobering reminder that many of Guam's World War II survivors have passed on. A key value of history is its relevance to present day, and in this inaugural program series, we wanted to focus on making this connection, bridging the wisdom and experiences of our World War II manana to help today's generations navigate emerging new realities. And there's no better place than our virtual kusinan sanhiyong, our outside kitchen. In ancient times, over a span of 3,000 years, the Guma Uritao served as a school, if you will, for teaching life skills to men and women. Colonization brought many changes to life in the Marianas, especially in education. But with an enduring spirit of resiliency, a hybrid of our ancient society emerged to what we refer to as Costumbrin Samoru. Our indigenous cultural heritage and traditions continue to be taught in spaces such as the kusinan sanhiyong. In fine Chamorro tradition, the kusina serves as the gathering place for familia, which for many of us in the Marianas extends beyond our immediate family members. It's an extension of our clan system to gather, not just to share meals, but to share stories and discuss family matters, all the while the tatizas, the keliguin, and fritada are being prepared. To this day, it serves as a space for connecting and sharing family history, passing on Costumbrin Samoru, and of course, a space to learn how to make great dishes. Laz, if you can take us to the next slide. Now, this is the final program of our 4-part series. Program 1 focused on Fanhasu War for Guam. Hasu means to think, to remember, to reflect. And so our featured visita or guests shared their perspectives on the war for Guam and connections they made for the from the World War II stories of their manana. Throughout the succeeding decades after the war, our manana continually longed for their way of life before the war. Although new colonizers brought new laws and a way of life, our manana continued costumbri or traditions that focused on their hinengi or faith and evolved around familia or family and community. Their recollections of life in pre-war Guam is a remembrance of a moment in time. It is also a reflection of Guam's unique sense of place and culture that unfolded in villages like Sumai. One of the greatest atrocities of World War II on Guam, the entire village of Sumai ceased to exist as a result of the war, and its more than 2,000 residents were permanently displaced from their ancestral lands. Listening to our manana stories is fascinating because they give us a glimpse of what it was like growing up in their time. We need to hear their stories, preserve them, and pass them on to those after us. Next slide, please. Our second program, Culture and Values in Crisis, delved into how culture and values shaped our manana's response to the war for Guam that brought with it disruption, displacement, fear, sudden and drastic changes. Although not to the extent our manana endured, but it echoes what we all have been experiencing and thinking about these last several months. In Chamorro culture, we have a deep reverence for our manana. Even after they've passed on, we call upon their spirits for their protection and their guidance, drawing from proverbs that are based on life experiences and their stories of suffering and triumph of Guam's greatest generations, highlights the coping skills, resources, and cultural values that became the tools for their survival when all else failed. Hearing the stories of those before us can inspire us to take action in our own lives. We ourselves make history every day, making stories that we can pass on and share. Studying history gives us continuity and connects us through the stories of a shared past. Next slide. In last week's program, Lansu, Survival and Sustainability, the stories shared surmise that, like the kusinan and sanhiyong, the Lansu is an authentic indigenous space where Costumbrin Chamorro is lived and learned. In a lot of ways, it sustained the role of the Gumauratao from ancient times, and as a place of learning important skills to sustain the familia. Through colonization, the Chamorro Lansu system emerged and became the refuge away from colonial measures and newly introduced laws and lifestyles. It was a place that gave our ancestors the freedom to commune with nature, connect to the land, and spend time with familia away from colonial rule. When enemy invasion began in December 1941, the Lansu became more than just a refuge. It was the primary means of survival for thousands of island residents during the war. For families who continued farming and maintaining their Lansus to the present day, we have seen how it continues to transmit life skills and promote sustainable living to younger generations. The young Lanceros that we featured last week, Lazaro Canata and Carmelo Nauta, they both recognize the cultural values instilled in them through the hard work and cooperation for the benefit of the whole familia system. Both noted the relevance of the Lansu and life skills that can help them to navigate through this pandemic. Across generations and gleaned from Guam's World War II survivor experiences, the Lansu, like the kusinan and sanhiyong, serve as cultural spaces that connect us to rich heritage that is rooted in the natural environment and our communal and spiritual nature. The Lansu, from survival to sustainability, both literally and figuratively, can serve in times of crisis and growth. Our next slide. And so our focus for today is Our Island, Our History, Commemorating and Connecting. Although the World War II era in Guam's historical timeline is relatively short, its impact on Guam's cultural landscape was pivotal. In recentering Guam's World War II narrative to the perspectives of our Mañana, it brings to light their enduring spirit of resilience, and it also brings to life how they helped shape Guam's history in the rebuilding and recovery after the war. Next slide, please. 76 years ago to this very day, Guam was declared secure by American forces. Military officials were then tasked with two duties: providing care to war-ravaged island residents and molding Guam as a staging area for naval and air operations against Japan. Just 2 days prior to Guam being secured, Marines discovered one of the largest atrocities of the war for Guam: decapitated bodies of Chamorro men in Seguinan, in the northern part of Cebu. As this 76th commemoration of the liberation of our Mañana from occupation and the war for Guam closes, not much may be written about it nor documented. So it brings to question, how will the 77th commemoration be? How will the 88th? How will the 100th commemoration be like? Next slide, guys. So this kusinan sanhiyong conversation today will focus on how we commemorate this period and connect younger generations to Guam's history. Our host, he's going to be mixing up the dish and directing, will be James Perez Viernes. And in today's sharing at our kitchen table, we have people across generations, beginning with our elders and then to our Manhoban. I just want to make a point about this sequence. In fact, we received a comment from one of our previous sessions from an attendee that said that we were putting so much emphasis on rank from Manina to Manhoban. And so I really wanted to bring that up because rank is actually a very important part of Chamorro social constructs, especially in the familia, especially in the clan, and especially in the kusinan sanhiyong. We consider our elders as one of our cultural values, and we regard them with such reverence. Tamaguun, or children, are also considered a cultural value, but in social settings, young children have their place as do their older siblings. The Magahaga and the Magatlahi are titles held by the oldest male and oldest female sibling respectfully. So that's why when a Saina arrives, even in the Kusinan Sanhiyong, all the Manhobin must get up immediately to Mangini to show reverence and receive the Saina's blessing. Traditionally, it's the smelling of the hand, but more often expressed by kissing on the cheek. And now with our COVID new reality, we're doing air mangini, keeping that 6-foot distance, eye a day. So with that, our Bisita, who have graciously accepted our invitation to share their perspectives on commemorating and connecting this period in Guam's history. We of course have our Saina Tony Malia Ramirez, Guam's historian for the last 50 years, who's done extensive work in research in oral history. And you may have seen Saina Malia in your classroom or as a cultural ambassador for Guam. And so Malia is going to speak about commemorating Guam's World War II experience, especially from a Chamorro perspective. Our next Saina that will be sharing with us today is Joe Kinata. He's the Chief Program Officer of the Guam Preservation Trust. He's also very connected to his village roots as he's been cultivating the Humatak Foundation. In both roles, there's emphasis on using the power of place and preserving sites and stories to connect younger generations to their history as part of their identity. And then our Manhobin guest for today, we have a descendant of traditional healers that helped shape her journey early on. Alyssa Santos was part of the first cohort of UOG's degree program in Chamorro Studies. She also went on to University of Hawaii for graduate studies under a full fellowship, and she was teaching Guam history at the University of Guam and is now getting ready to start her new role at the Commission Chamorro here in Guam. Alyssa will share her Nana story of struggle and resistance as a Surahana before, during, and after World War II. Nolan Flores, he's a UOG student in Chamorro Studies and Political Science. He will be part of University of Guam's class of 2022. Nolan will share his perspective on American militarism surrounding Guam's liberation and the need for balance in commemoration. So those are our Bisita. We welcome them. We're so happy they're able to join us and give us their time and share their stories from their hearts. And so before I turn it over to our maestro, our lead cook, I just want to preface, and Laz, if you can take it to the next slide. In 1944, Ken Agata Iglesias Johnston was quoted as saying, "I consider liberation of Guam a rebirth for all its people, and all those who show delinquencies should be forgiven and given another chance to really live again." This was a reset. It was a new beginning. In 1945, next slide, please, Laz. Ken Agata convinced US military leaders to support an official commemoration of Guam's liberation. Liberation Day, as it was called, was initially commemorated with Catholic Mass to pray for the dead and processions with a statue of Santa Maria Carmelita. Next slide. By the 1950s, Liberation Day became more of a civic holiday with carnivals, parades, and a Liberation Queen. Over the decades, Liberation Day has come to mean different things to different people. For many, it is a time to remember, to think or reflect. Our history is Guam's history, and for the past 20 years, thanks to the work of our academic and traditional scholars, our island's historical narrative has been resonating with Indigenous voices and Islander-centered historiography. As Guam's history continues to unfold through indigenous lenses, we see clearly that despite colonization, our Manaina have been agents to our historia and historia. In recentering Guam's World War II narrative to the perspectives of our Manaina, it brings to light their enduring spirit of resilience, and it also brings to life how they helped shape Guam's history in the rebuilding and recovery after the war. Next slide. And so now I'd like to turn it over to our kusinan sanhiyong host, James Perez Viernes. His mother is Zita Pangilinan Perez of Familia Kotla, Zinza, and Tite. And this is something about the outside kitchen, whether you're a panelist or an attendee, we introduce each other based on our familia, our lineage, so you might find a relative during this whole session. So James's father is Andres Santos Viernes, Familia Miguel, with roots from the Philippines and Hawaii. James is currently working in Hawaii. He's there right now, but he hails from the village of Santa Rita by way of Sumay. Half a day, James.
Half a day. Thank you, Rita, for the introduction, and welcome to all those who are dialing in. Thank you for asking me to be a part of this. Again, joining you from Honolulu. So if you hear sirens, that's just a part of living in the city. You're just gonna have to excuse that. But welcome to our island, our history, commemorating and connecting. I have the honor of welcoming and transitioning between our guests at the back kitchen table. And before I turn it over to them, just to set a bit of context about our theme today, what impresses me most about the guests that we have today is they represent a really diverse range of historians. And when we think about what a historian does, as we'll see at the kitchen table today, we have lots of different kinds of historians, from what Rita calls the traditional historian or oral historians, who have devoted their lives and careers to engaging with our elders, who have lived experience of our past and finding ways that are new and creative ways of retelling that history to preserve it once those with lived history pass on. We have that at the table today. We have others who have pursued academic or professional credentials, studying historic theory, studying historic method, and translating that into professions with institutions like universities or with organizations that preserve our past. And so today we welcome these speakers who embrace this kind of wide range of knowing the past and a wide range of how to do the past. And I think what our back kitchen table today will demonstrate is that in Guam, I'm very proud to say that it is no longer an issue of the academic historian versus the traditional historian. It is no longer this divisive kind of environment where it's you're that kind of historian or you're that kind of historian. We are all collectively working together, right? Whether an academic, whether an oral historian, we wear these multiple hats to serve a greater purpose, and that is to be stewards of the lived experiences of our elders. And again, I'm very proud that at our back kitchen table today, we're seeing that come together. This is definitely part of a bigger movement across Oceania in what we call Pacific history. It's definitely embracing this idea of indigenous history. For a long time, as we know, our history in the Pacific has been dominated by the foreigners who first started writing it down. Has been dominated by their perspectives and their motives. And thankfully, in Guam and the Pacific, we have pioneers who have fought against that and insisted that our indigenous ways of knowing history, our indigenous ways of narrating history have been brought to the foreground, right? And so we're now in this age, this beautiful age of oral history coming into contact with archival and academic history, the community history and the personal histories, coming into ways that help us know why the past is relevant to our present. For me, as Rita was saying, that has largely been a journey of understanding my own family and my own community through the lens of World War II. Understanding that as a descendant of farmers, fisher people, healers, weavers, laundresses, and golf caddies for military officers, as a descendant of all these people in my community who became warriors, who fought for their survival during the war, who fought for the survival of place and identity for subsequent generations like us, that became the lens for me understanding the broader issues of Guam's history, of the Marianas, of Micronesia, and of the Pacific. And so the stories of our elders who survived World War II, they became a big part of who I am. They've become the doorway for me to understand where and how I could best contribute to my community. And today, most importantly, these histories help guide me. They help me navigate how to survive and how to thrive, in what's becoming or seemingly a hopeless kind of world, right? Where we're dealing with a global pandemic, economic collapse, political messiness, and probably the greatest uncertainty, at least that I felt in my 41 years on this planet. So in that spirit, I'm very excited to turn it over to these movers and shakers of Guam history who are connecting and commemorating. Each of them has made impact in their own ways through connecting stories, peoples, and places, and they span a very wide range of experiences and perspectives and generations. And in the spirit of that, I do want to welcome everybody and turn it over to our first visita, Tony Malia Ramirez, who will share with us the importance of commemorating World War II and talk about some of the connections that have been made. Welcome everybody, and Malia, I turn it over to you.